So here we are on the open road then, Rich?
Yes, we're in the heart of the valleys here down in Glynneath. Way, boys?
Yeah, there's a dog. It's Glynneath dog. So how did you get involved in politics then?
Strangely really, after 2016, the Brexit vote, I watched politicians try to thwart the biggest democratic vote in history, and it angered me to the point that I thought I need to do something. I remember sitting there on a Thursday night watching Question Time and shouting at the TV, and my mum said one time, stop shouting about it and do something about it. And so I decided to get involved with politics. I stood for the Brexit Party in 2019. I believed in what they stood for back then and everything else, and yeah, it's been an incredible journey. I worked in the Senate for 6 months for Brexit Party leader at the time, Mark Reckless, which was interesting. Got to see in the belly of the beast, if you like. And
yeah.
I got bit by the political bug, as they say, and I think that coming from the working class background and from the streets of Glynneath, someone who went through a lot of challenging times as a teenager, drug addiction, time in Majesty's Young Offenders Institute, went to a rehab when I was 18, turned my life around. I'm 50 years of age now, a long time ago. I just felt I had something to give, something to offer, because I understood ordinary people, working class people, people from the streets. And so getting into politics, having not come from Cambridge or Oxford or Eton, I had an understanding of the streets, which I think is crucial for politicians to grasp. And I think that's the reason why I got involved in politics. I wanted to make a difference.
Yeah.
It wasn't about me, it was about the people. I wanted to make a real difference in people's lives. And so I stood in 2019 in Glynneath went. Finished third highest in the country, but we didn't win the seat. I came second to Labour. It's a safe Labour seat, they've been for years. Took 34% of their vote share, so it took a big chunk of it, so it wasn't too bad. But it wasn't enough, and I stepped away from politics for 2 years. I had a break, and then I came back into it and have to join the Reform Party. But Reform have changed completely under Farage, and since Zia Youssef has come into the party, even more so. He's bought his way in. He bought his chairmanship.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I've been involved ever since.
Do you think 200,000? Was it 200,000?
£200,000. I think it was probably a bit more than that, but yeah, it's nice to have that kind of money to spend and to throw away. I mean, but buying your way into a political party is not democracy.
No.
And Farage, when he came back into Reform, he promised to democratise the party, which he hasn't done. He's still the biggest shareholder, which means you can't get rid of the leader.
Yeah.
Now, in any democracy, there has to be the rights, and members have the ability to, their voice is not just heard, but actually they can use it, whether that be voting out the leader or whether it be changing on policy, making policy issues, things that really matter to what I consider to be a democratic party. And hence the reason why I became a member of the College of Advance UK with Ben Habib, who was a deputy leader with Reform until Nigel kicked him out unceremoniously, and Rupert Lowe, of course, at the same time. And they've thrown so many figures under the bus, senior figures, very good people, in local levels as well, branches and chair people. You know, he just kicked them out. And I think for that reason, I felt, you know, within politics there needed to be an alternative to Reform. There was an alternative. Yeah. So until
as a sort of a challenging.
Absolutely, yeah. And people would say, well, you're splitting the vote. There's no vote to split because nobody's entitled to anyone's vote. You know, I mean, the idea that, you know, you can't take those people's votes because they're mine, that's quite arrogant, and I think it's in a sense of entitlement. I think people have the right to vote how their conscience and their convictions and what they believe is right for them. And if a party aligns to their principles and they trust the leader, which is a huge issue because trust is a massive thing for me, and I lost trust in Farage when he changed the constitution. He changed it in such a way that there was no democracy, and we are the single party, they're the only party that is democratized from the bottom to the top. You know, we start with grassroots, and I think that's essential for people to understand. And with Advance UK here in Wales, I've been given the task of leading the party, where the four key pillars really, sovereignty, democracy, equality in the law, and the freedom of speech, fundamental. That's what got me really, that our parliament is not sovereign. It's been interfered with all kinds of international bodies like the WHO, the WEF, the UN, and you know, we got Keir Starmer causing up to the EU now. You know, if he had his way, we'd be back in. He was a Remainer, let's not forget. Yeah. And I think if you look at what we've got as a government, they are failing us completely as a country, as a nation. Absolutely, you know, we've lost our identity. The demographics of our country have changed as a result of open borders policy. We have people with different religions and ideas that want to come and live here, and that's fine if you want to go and live in a country, but you have to, you know, you have to live within that cultural environment in which you find yourself. Like if I went to live in Dubai, I'd have to live the way that they live culturally, respect their culture. Unfortunately over here we don't have that. We have a disrespect for our culture, a disrespect for our history, and it's led, you know, division within our communities, as we've seen young undocumented males come over here, placed in hotels and in HMOs privately run by landlords, in places in the valleys as well. In Wales was one in Cardiff and Rouse, and other places we've seen Epping, you know, we've seen riots that have kicked, well, not riots, but some of the people that are involved there, the protests, forgive me, not riots. And people are angry. The nation is angry because government has failed them. You know, people often blame the migrants. I blame the government. They've allowed this to happen on their watch, and so there has to be a pushback, there has to be a kickback, and I think we're at a crucial point in our history that if we don't do something now, it's going to be too late for our children and our children's children. So I think that's why I got back involved in politics, and I'm giving it one last big blast before, you know, I decide to walk off into the sunset and retire. But I'm not ready to do that yet, because I want to fight. I want to fight for the small man, the ordinary people, working class people, particularly here in Wales, where I'm very passionate, very patriotic about Wales.
Can I just stop?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
That's Malcolm. He's a working class. Are you a working class man, Malcolm?
I am indeed.
He is indeed.
We all are. So yeah, that was my kind of road into politics, and I've continued that, you know, that kind of momentum, and I want to be able to make a difference. I want people to get elected. I want people to tell their stories, have their voices heard, their opinions heard, and I want to save Wales. I want to save the United Kingdom. We're part of a union that has makes us stronger together than we are apart. And we've seen Welsh nationalists want to divide us. You know, if we went independent, we'd be bankrupt, by the way, and we would have to come up with currency. I mean, the whole thing is a shambles. So, you know, we need an alternative to reform. And I think what Ben Habib has created, he's created that. And it's given us the ability, really, to start something fresh, something new. And I think, you know, it's appealing to a lot of people. We've gone over the 30,000 membership mark, which is tremendous. And we're in the process of registering the Electoral Commission as we speak. So yeah, it's exciting times, and we've been travelling up and down Wales doing like these mini tours. We're going to have some big events planned, obviously, in the future across different parts of Wales. Forgive my hair, it's due a cut, but I haven't had a chance to do it yet, so put it up like that. So yeah, we're planning these tours. We're going to these pubs, meets and greets, and you know, we've been in Swansea later this evening. We'll be in Cardiff then in the 1st of October. And there's a lot of stuff happening, meeting members where they're at, which I think is important. You know, leaders have this thing where they're aloof from the people. They stay in their ivory towers in their office in Westminster, whereas I think it's important, as someone who's been given the task of leading the party in Wales, you get out there, you meet your members, you listen to them, and you talk to them, and you know, have a drink with them and get to know a little bit about them and what they can offer and how they can be part of this wonderful team and family called Advance UK.
Excellent. Good. So you had a sort of a Unite the Kingdom march in Newtown?
We did actually.
Did you organise it?
No, we weren't part of it. It was already organised. We didn't know about it the last minute because we were planning to come to London, but unfortunately I couldn't make it.
Yeah.
It was my intention to be there. I supported all the guys. Obviously, I was with Liam Tufts the week before, doing an interview.
That was a really good interview.
Oh, thank you.
Really nice, really nice.
He's a great guy.
Yeah.
Great interview. And what happened was, I attended it. It was great. Took some photos and, you know, did some pieces to camera. It was great just to support something locally in Wales. Yeah. Because I think often a lot of stuff happens in London and Wales gets forgotten. Yeah. And it was important to me to support something locally, as I couldn't get to the one in London.
Yeah. So you're sort of so Tommy is much maligned, I suppose. So what are your thoughts on Tommy?
Well, look, my thoughts are on Tommy the same as a lot of people. He's a British citizen. He's allowed to have his own belief system and what he believes. I happen to be very close and agree with what he believes in, you know, in exposing the grooming gangs, which has been a massive problem and continues to be, and more is getting exposed as the days go on, actually, because sexual abuse of, you know, young women is still happening, and children. It's still happening in our country, and that is abhorrent. It's evil, and it needs to be called out. And I think what Tommy's done by exposing is opened up a big tin of worms, if you like, and people are seeing what he's done, where politicians have systematically failed. Those in places of power, social services, whatever it might be, they have failed. And I think Tommy should shed a light on that, and I think it's important we carry that torch on. And I think his fight for the freedom of speech, because let's face it, freedom of speech is an attack in this country. You know, the police should be policing our streets, not our tweets. We've seen people gone to jail, like Lucy Connolly, Peter Lynch, Tommy himself, a political prisoner, because of their views. Now, if you don't have a view and you don't have a voice and you're not allowed to debate, then that's not a society I want to live in, because then you become, there's no critical thinking, it's all indoctrination, and you know, you're told what to believe, you're told what to think. That's not a free society. And I believe men and women gave their lives heroically for us to give us the freedoms that we have today. So we have to continue with those. Tommy himself is a member of Advance UK. He joined because he recognised Ben Habib's set up a party that's completely different. And in fact, Nigel Farage and Richard Tice would throw him under the bus anyway. They already have so many different interviews. You know, he referred to us at the march as that lot in an interview, and Farage has accused Tommy Robinson of all kinds of crimes which he has not been convicted of. And I think it's sad really, because these people, they carry the same kind of understanding of what we want to see. They're on our side of the argument. Yeah. But for some reason, Tommy's a great threat to them, and that's a shame. And you know, I consider him a friend. I consider him someone that fights for the rights of people, and I think that's important to champion that cause. And yeah, he's got my support certainly. And you know, future rallies and events that he's going to be doing, then I'll be part of it, I'm sure. And it's great to have Tommy as a member of Advance UK.
So that the interview we did with Peter McCormack, I mean, I thought, you know, 2 hours, I think it's 2 hours and 5 minutes long, and I saw nothing that sort of nothing that sort of identified him as a threat to the nation. You know, I think you put it right there, that he's, you know, I think he's working for the people, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, I think it's important. What I would say to people, you know, here particularly in Wales, we've got the Senate elections coming up. People are asking a lot of questions. I think the important thing to look at the moment is 2029, the big general election, because I think, you know, we're heading, if we're not careful, into a massive crisis as a nation. We're losing our identity, we're losing our morals, and you know, people don't know what the answer is. And I think people have long believed it's just politics, but I believe there should be a coming together of the spiritual and the political. So I'm a believer, I'm a Christian. I believe Christianity is the fundamentals on which our country was based upon. The Christian Constitution, those values, the structures around that are crucial to us moving forward, and not forgetting where we've come from, because if you forget where you come from, you don't know where you're going. Yeah. And I think it's crucial we understand that, and a lot of that Christianity has been eroded. You know, the teaching of trans issues in our schools, you know, men can become women, women can become men, all those things that are against the teachings of Christianity, you know, which our constitution was built upon, and anything that threatens that needs to be addressed, and we need to push back against it. And I think what Advance UK does, it does offer that, and Ben's been very clear in many of his interviews that he would return to a Christian constitution, and our parliament would be structured around Christian principles. I think that's essential for people to understand. Whereas with Farage, he's a political chameleon. He'll change to, you know, win certain votes in certain areas, you know, from centre to left, left to right, which doesn't exist, it's just an illusion. But he's not the man that I knew in 2019. He's changed massively, and I think for me and many others as well, they've seen through that and thought, you know what, we can't be part of this, and they've come over to Advance UK.
Do you suppose that's just his makeup? He's a people pleaser? Or
well, he's not a people pleaser, he's a self-pleaser. Yeah. Farage is only sitting himself. Yeah. And Farage is reform, and reform is Farage. Yeah. You know, there's no other way of looking at it. And, you know, and unless he gets the biggest piece of the pie, he's not interested. And I've seen this for many years. You know, I remember him back in UKIP. I wasn't involved in politics then, and he went from UKIP obviously and done a lot of damage to that particular party, which membership now is almost just over 3,000, I think, in the country, 4,000. So I think there's been a big shift politically. I think there's been an alignment happening in the spiritual, and I think both coming together. And the church needs to have a voice again. You know, we need to raise up, you know, men within the church, women within the church, with a moral compass, a voice, to be part of, to be involved in politics. I think it's crucial. And we're not looking to have massive conversions and revivals, but I watched Charlie Kirk last night, and it was amazing to see the remembrance service, and he was one who debated on college campuses all around the USA, and he was able to share, you know, and communicate and debate in such a humble, humorous kind of self-deprecating way that appealed to people, you know, to win the argument on some of the issues. And I've mentioned the trans issues. There's many other issues as well, of course, when it comes to policy. We haven't got time to talk policy, I know. But you know, there's a lot of things. You know, what we've seen happening with our open borders in this country has changed our country completely. It's unrecognisable to a lot of people, and people just want their country back. You know, we want Wales to be Wales again. You know, the land of songs and poets and heroes and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's what we need. We need a revival, and we need it in Wales. You know, we've got old Max Boyce now.
Max,
you know, one of my heroes actually. I loved a bit of Max Boyce. All his songs. And I think it's important that we find our identity again as people. You know, the Welsh language, you know, a lot of people have said, you know, we don't need to learn nothing about the Welsh language. I'm a Welsh speaker, I'm siarad Cymraeg. I love the Welsh language. I think it's important that we embrace it, but not force people to learn it.
As a cultural thing or as a communication thing? How would you...
I think a bit of both. I think it's important, you know, we maintain our mother tongue. I think it's essential because, again, it's our identity, it's who we are. But it shouldn't divide us. But I know outside of Wales, the Welsh language is not much use to anybody, you know, unless you're an expat living in Spain somewhere, there's a Welsh community somewhere. But I think it's important because it tells stories of our past and where we've come from, and you know, our identity is shaped in our music, our culture, our language, everything. You know, it's all part of who we are as Welsh people, and I think that's important. And of course, as part of the union, because I'm a unionist as well, I believe in the United Kingdom or Great Britain and Northern Ireland. But I think within the union we have diversity. You know, we have the Welsh, the English, the Scottish, and we hate each other during the rugby, as Max Boyce would have said. But we come together afterwards and we love each other, and that's the way it should be.
Excellent. So let's have a quick look. Which is your favourite Max Boyce song? Okay. Do It's Hard. Oh, well, these are the options.
Oh, it's going to be Hymns and Arias.
Hymns and Arias?
Yeah, we'll be singing Hymns and Arias, land of my fathers, I need a most. Yeah, well, that's my favourite. And we were singing Hymns and Arias, land of my fathers, I need a most. There we go, guys.
Thank you, Max.
Thank you, Max.